So, fun fact, I missed my Pride Parade again because my town, which is a fairly small town, all things considered, always somehow plans their Pride Parade super early. Like this year it was May 17th, so a few days ago, and the year before that it was even earlier. It's an insane time. Pride Month is June. I don't personally think that you should have a Pride Parade in early May. But there's nothing to be done about it today. So instead, to compensate emotionally, I will do my hair in asexual flag colors because I'm asexual, as you probably have guessed from the title of this video. And I'm not much for crowds anymore. Anyway, I never really been for. So Pride Parade is something I force myself to go for numbers, but I never really truly enjoy it. It's both underwhelming and overwhelming. It's a lot. So I'm good doing something here, and I think it's important to share everyone's experience with queerness, and my experience with asexuality may be common, may not be, and maybe will resonate for someone, maybe you won't. But it's good to have variety because there are as many ways to be queer as there are queer people. And I think maybe it'd be interesting for someone to hear a version that is different from what they might have seen on TikTok, for example. From someone who is not a teenager. I am 31 years old. Officially, I turned 31 a couple weeks ago, and yeah, it's impressive. I never thought I'd make it to 31. I thought I'd make it to 30, so that was interesting. Honestly, when I was a teenager, I thought I wouldn't make it past 25. That was kind of the plan, and that's not what happened. So I'm very weirded out and overwhelmed with it, but also I'm proud because that's mean I won this. So yeah, I'm a person that is an adult, that is hanging around a lot of older people from my parents' generation. Two of my friends and a lot of the people I hang out with are between 60 and 70, so I've got experience from a wide range of ages, and I just don't think you should listen to what your teenage self thinks. Oftentimes, you're wrong. So, I've got some black and grey dreads. It's part of the set where I got black to grey and black to lilac. I'm not picking the lilac because it's a deep purple in the flag. I've got some white from my All Happens Cloud set. It's wool. It's way too hot outside to be wearing wool, so I will not be wearing this set for very long. My hair is too short to handle it anyway. And I've got the only purple dreads I have that are only purple, which are this one, and they're not only purple, they have a yellow twist because they're part of my tailored set, and it's purple and yellow, so I needed both. And it's as close as it's gonna get. The color is right. The yellow is gonna be a fun twist. I do not really like the asexual flag colors, but I'm asexual, I have to deal with it. I like the gender fluid flag a little better, which I'm also gender fluid. But I don't have blue or pink dreads so far. I will definitely fix that, but I do not have it yet. That's not true. I do have pink, don't have blue yet. But adding pink without adding the blue would have been weird. So instead we're doing that. We're doing the asexuality flag because sexual before I am gender fluid, I think. I am both. You can do everything you want, you can be everything you want. There's no rules. So let's start with the installation, and I will tell you all the gritty details of what got me through in my life around asexuality and how I came to this diagnosis, and how I lived it since. It's a journey. It's 30 years of journey, so it's interesting. Alright, let's do the ridiculous part first and part my hair. Alright, did the separation, let the cat in. If you hear noises, it's them. They are very annoying. So, asexuality started with me, I think mostly out of autism. I do not technically have a diagnosis for autism. My psychiatrist tried to hint at it a couple of times, but I was like, girl, we have other priorities than diagnosing me with autism. It's not a priority. Considering that the diagnosis will not impact my life in any way, I do not see the point in having it and going through the process of it. But I am most likely autistic in one way or another. Or at least I am neurodivergent, and this one I am definitely sure. Most of my friends are neurodivergent because like attracts likes. You're a pain in my ass, G. They are very needy, they're annoying. Of course, I was weird. I was a weird kid. I still am very weird, which is apparently a highest crime than being anything else in the society I grew up in. So I was bullied a lot, and I struggled to make connections with people of my age or other people. Tended to get along with adults better because, I don't know, adults had the withdrawal to think that I was just a kid, you know, a cute kid, and they didn't really care about me being weird as much as children my own age, obviously, which I appreciated because I was very lonely. So I grew up in a very small village, and we had one school for all ages until middle school, where we had to go to another city, another town, another small town. It was very small. And so I was among a very limited number of people and of children to get along with, and that was a problem, because once you are weird with someone, they cut you off because they think you're weird. And yeah, and at some point you run through every child in your class, in your very small class, and at some point you have no one else you can talk to. I got through a lot of my early years trying to figure out why my friends didn't like me anymore, why they were passive aggressive at me, and I didn't understand the social cues of I don't want to be your friend anymore. And my parents were not very helpful. My parents loved countryside life and would not give it up because they bought the house there and they were happy there, and they didn't care that I didn't feel it and that it was terrible for me. That was not the problem. I'm going to look absolutely ridiculous. It's okay. So yeah, my parents were pretty shitty. I think they were not ready or prepared or willing to have a disabled neurodivergent child, and I was already the third child that was not really wanted and not planned at all. It was an accident. I arrived last when they already gave up all the efforts already on my two sisters, and I was not wanted. Like, to be frank, totally, I just not wanted. So they did not make a lot of effort to help me through my struggles, and those were dark times in my life. Anyway, I know that when I was a child, I got along with one of them. At some point, I was probably around 5 or 6, and we had a boyfriend-girlfriend thing going on for like 3 days. We were 6 years old, you know. You had to be realistic there. But it was fun. It was pretty much an outcast too, because it was fat, it was chubby, and that was the reason for him to be an outcast. Small village stuff did not make a lot of sense. It was pretty bad, but you know, that was it. So I do not know if I was attracted to him more, but it was just, well, I was curious. And we did technically do sex stuff, but I don't know if that counts as sex stuff, as much as it was just children exploring. We kissed each other's genital while giggling. It was actually a good memory of mine because it was funny, it was fun, and it was something that I got to experience without having to worry about being rejected, because we were doing it, he was into it, it was going on well. And we never talked about it again, of course, we were children. And I don't know if we would even talk about it again if I saw him today. So, I don't know, it's a good memory. But it lasted like 2 days. And so that was technically my first sexual experience. And possibly, technically, the only one. But yeah, technically I did not like him that way, I just was curious. After that, things got a little complicated. I started getting bullied, I started being an outcast, starting being miserable all the time. And I had to deal with things as they were. And then when I was around 8 or 9, I had my second sexual experience. And that one was not consensual. I think someone would call it a soft rape. It's something that I don't have a lot of memories of because I repressed it for so long. But it was fucked up. Like, that should have not happened, and my parents should have protected me, but they did not. And yeah, I'm kind of blaming that on them, because yeah, that shouldn't have happened, that shouldn't have been permitted to happen, so that was pretty upsetting. It was my sister's bully, because of course my sister was bullied too. Even her, who was honestly very much the social one between us three. The most socially adept, at least, and she was still bullied. But it was more of a physical bullying. He was very violent toward her, and neither the school nor our parents did anything to fix that. At least not that I know of, so it was my sister's bully. He had a little sister when I was my age, and somehow I think I got to hang out with her because that was probably one of the few people that agreed to be in my vicinity. And my parents were very willing to put me in someone else's lap so they could have a break. And so I was at their house, and we weren't very watched, at least by their parents, where I was hanging out with the little sister, and at some point I got separated from her, and I ended up in that boy's room, and he taught me, he wanted to teach me how to make love, whatever, and I ended up with my tights around my ankles, probably my underwear with it, and he was about to penetrate me, so and I think the little sister came in and interrupted us, and he rolled me all over the bed, and that's when I kinda understood that what we were doing was wrong and something to hide and something to be ashamed of. And I was half willing to do it, but I was 8 and he was probably around 14. No, maybe less, maybe 12, 13. And it was fucked up. And yeah, nothing really came out of it, and I know he's an adult now, it's probably less fucked up. I know his mother had been raped at some point, and it was fucked up in his own right. I don't harbor any anger toward him. I harbor more anger toward our parents that did nothing in those fucked up situations where we both clearly needed help. And yeah, so I'm not mad at him. It's not really his fault, I guess, but it was fucked up and it changed me. And I got even more awkward because now I knew you had sex, and I was too young to know how you had sex. I was more outcast and was more fucked up, and it was tough years after that. I got bullied a lot. People hated me, I hated people in turn. It was just not working well for me. So since people blew out and called a lot for me because I did not understand social cues, and my parents weren't exactly willing to teach me how to be a person, I suffered a lot during that time, and so I was bullied a lot, and I lost all trust in people. And so if someone, nobody did it in my first middle school, but if someone asked me for like a date or to be with me, I knew it was going to be a trap. I knew I was being set up for a joke, and of course I would have said no, because that's a lesson I learned in my first middle school. And in my second middle school I was a lot happier because I was in a class with neurodivergent people. Technically it was called Gifted Kids program. And so for the first time in my life I was around people that were just like me. And I was thriving. I was so happy. But it was a school that didn't have just gifted kids, it had normal kids too. And one of them was a twin, asked me out, and I played it off. I was like, yeah, I'll say I'm thinking about it. I was not thinking about it. It was this, from the start I decided I was going to be no. It was very cute. It was objectively, handsomely, handsome. From normal criteria, it was objectively handsome. I did not give a shit about him. But the very big problem was it was a twin, and I did not know how to differentiate them. I learned to differentiate them a few months down the line, but when he asked me out, I did not know which one was which honestly just looked like a setup. So I did what I knew what to do when I was set up for a joke, for a trap, for a prank, and I said no. And I was probably the only time I was genuinely asked to date to go on a date, to be with someone genuinely. I think he genuinely liked me, but I couldn't afford the risk. It was not going to happen. So he asked me out. I pulled him on a string for a little while, and I said no eventually. And that was so weird to me because obviously in my mind it was a setup, and I didn't understand why he would want to date me. I still don't really do, but that's a me problem, I guess. And that's pretty much my only chance to ever date someone. That happened. And I let it go because I didn't want to. And so high school happened after that, and high school was its own kind of worms. I was so depressed and so sick. I think I developed my thyroid cancer back then, which I didn't know at all. And I started having very bad emotional regulation and a lot of depression, a lot of manic episodes that I did not know where they were. I was very depressed most of the time. At that point, my parents had dropped the ball and were off doing other things, and I spent most of the time completely isolated. So I was living in the middle of nowhere. Literally, you had to walk 3 kilometers to even find another house, and it was a ranch for horses, and while they were kind of nice, they were not very friendly either. So I was very isolated, and that just did not help anything, because even if I wanted to hang out with people, there were no people around. And my parents, which were pretty much at that point, both my sister had moved out, they were my only point of human contact. They weren't my friends, and they were gone most of the time. So I was very isolated, I was very depressed, I started having really bad problems mentally, and I'm still recovering from that. But around me, there were people. I started having crushes. I had a crush on a little Spitfire of a girl, and she did not at all reciprocate it. We were friends, but we are not that great friends, which sucked. So that was very much unrequited, and since I was in a very small town, I was in the town I am now, so half an hour away from where I was born. But I was in a very small town, and it was the 2000s, and you know, being a lesbian was as much as a crime as being weird in school. And I just knew I couldn't afford to be that. I knew I couldn't afford to take that risk. So I never confessed my feelings. But I was just not attracted to her sexually. I was just attracted to her personality. I just liked hanging out around so much, and I was yearning. I didn't know for what, but I just liked her, dude. And that was one of my first crushes. I was very confused, and I confessed in it to my best friend at that time, which I knew was safe because she gave off queerness vibe. She is bisexual, and I knew my secret was safe with her. And that little girl broke my heart by being very homophobic, and I moved on. That circle of friends was not very good. At some point, they organized a surprise birthday party for one of them, and they did not invite me. And that's when I realized that they were really my friends. They were just people I hang out with, and they didn't really care about me. So that hurt, and I learned to move on. and I hung out with other people, and I had a crush with another girl because I am still queer. And she was fat. I am into fat girls apparently, and she was squishy and soft and cute. And we cuddled a couple times because, you know, you get bored in high school. So we were like watching stuff on the phone, and she was laying there, and you know, we were gentle, friendly cuddling, and I was very happy because I was very attracted to her. And just being around her made me happy. Again, that did not go very well because she clearly wasn't reciprocating either those feelings. She was seeing me as an acquaintance. I was not even one of the real friends. We were not close. I just built it up in my head. That sucked. But I still liked hanging around her. I was feeling good when I was around her, when I was touching her. I was not wanting to do anything sexual with her. I just wanted to date her, you know? Hang out with her. So I know I'm not a romantic because I do like to do that. So maybe it's just friendship that I don't have, and I'm yearning for something that I could get with friendship, but I don't have because I don't have many friends. But I like that. I like being around her. All that to say, I had crush in high schools. That was not a priority. Boys and girls were not something I was obsessing over during high school. Because it was just not a priority. I was very overwhelmed with depression and probably dissociative identity disorder, which I'm not really ready to address yet. But it was a hard time for me, and boys and girls was just not a priority. And that went on also when I went to college, university. And again, I was hanging out with friends who were not really my friends, were just people I hang out with because we were already spending all our time together because we were in the same class, so it was just hanging out of convenience. And I didn't like them all that much inside, and they didn't like me all that much, but we were just convenient hanging out. And one of them was a gay guy that never actually told me he was gay, even if I've pushed. I think he just didn't want to hang out with me. And he was so pretty. And I really liked hanging out with him. So I had a crush on him. And he looked a little like my father when he was young. I think I do have other daddy issues at some point, but again, they're not something that I'm addressing at the moment because I have other priorities. But he was cute. And he never actually told me he was gay, probably to lay me down softly. But I told him I had a crush on him. I was already older and I was more assertive, and I knew that if I wanted something to happen, I had to make it happen. So I knew that it wasn't going to go anywhere if I didn't tell him I had a crush and I wanted to be with him. But he had a boyfriend. He was living with his older boyfriend, and I wasn't away. I was not a guy. I'm attracted to gay guys, which is very on brand with being gender fluid, because when I am a guy, I am gay, and when I am a girl, I am gay. So that's interesting. But yeah, the fact is, I was attracted to him. He was trying to lay me down gently. Again, I didn't really want to do anything sexual with him, but I was into him, and it didn't get anywhere, sadly. So that was a crush to people my age. And then I got this really hot professor in university. Everybody had a crush on him, and I was no exception. I took classes specifically because he was teaching them. I took one elective class because it was supposed to be him teaching him, and it didn't show up. He just got all the people to teach it, and it was about wine, and I hate wine. So that was very pathetic, and that was pretty much a wake-up call to tell me, come on girl, that's pathetic. Stop doing that. But I had a crush on him so hard, and I almost went into geology instead of the biology that I wanted to go, just because he was a petrology professor, and come on, it was very cute. It was short, dark hair, blue eyes, striking blue eyes. It was really beautiful. And he had a different girlfriend every year that he picked around his students. He was that professor that was very creepy inside. He had children, but he still dropped their mother within the year. It was really fucked up. But I liked being around him. We had some one time because I went on a trip with him as a class, and every time we had one-on-one time, I was completely charmed. I was having a good time, I was relaxed, I felt like myself. I felt good, you know? I was just hanging around people, someone that just seemed to like being around me too. It was really nice. And during that time, I was half fantasizing about having sex with him, but I was mostly, I want him to notice me, I want him to be interested in me, and I think the only way for him to be interested in me is if I offer sex. And I was willing to offer sex solely for the purpose of him being interested in me. Thank God I did not do that. Thank fuck I never did that. I never pursued him. I never told him anything because I was too shy, and like telling a classmate I'm into him is miles away from hitting on a professor, and I knew I wasn't cut up for it. So thank God I did not do anything. So yeah, that was university. And I was so depressed back then too. It was really hard. And everything was so overwhelming. I was tired, I was depressed, my life was going nowhere. I was very suicidal at that time. And my family was even more of a mess than usual, and just dating was not a priority. It never was. I got over it. I still think of him fondly because he is very cute. But I moved on, you know? And I'm okay with that. And so I graduated eventually university. Took me a while, but I did it. And yeah, eventually I had to move on and start working, and that's what I did. I had a bunch of shitty ass jobs, and I hated working, so most of them were shitty ass jobs. And the one I'm thinking about was in a medical lab. And I was doing electrophoresis on blood samples. It was a very boring job. The laboratory was dying because, I don't know, they weren't getting enough tests to keep afloat, and I was pretty much hired to stay until the ship actually sank. So I was hired for 6 months, and we were so underwhelmed, and we didn't have anything to do all day. It was driving me crazy. Staying 8 hours in a job that I had nothing to do in was not great. For me, it was very painful. I was going crazy, but there was one good thing. One of the boss, so one of the doctors that were there to interpret the results that we were putting out, was very cute. Pretty sure he was married, but I was in denial. And since, as long as he didn't have a proof that he was married, he didn't wear a wedding ring. As long as I didn't have the proof, I deluded myself into thinking he was divorced or something. He was around late 50s, around, I think. And again, it was easy to be around him. I just had a crush on him for the only reason that I just liked hanging out with him. It was not that deep, but I just liked it. He was nice to talk to, and he seemed to enjoy talking to me too, which was always nice. And we were so not busy, and I was so bored all the time. I kept getting excuses to go see him because I was so bored. And hanging out with him felt nice. And so I had a crush on him. I gave off a big queer vibe too. Honestly, it gave off gay vibe. And so I think I was attracted to him mainly because I thought he was gay. That was not so clear cut in my mind at that time, but I think he gave off gay, and I liked that. I was attracted to him. I wanted him. I wanted to hang out and cuddle and date. That would have been nice. I think the other workers at the lab caught out onto it and hated me even more for it. That did not help me. I just liked hanging out with him. It was nice, and we were talking about tea and stuff and books, and I don't remember exactly what, but I liked hanging out with him, and I felt good when I was with him. Of course, he was my boss. He was probably around 30 years old, more 40, maybe 40 years old older than me. So of course that was not looked for. It looked like my father a little too. So I am into fat girls, and I am into guys that have short eyes and bright eyes, short brown hair and bright eyes. And yeah, they look a little like my father, but that's it. So yeah, those were my big crushes in my life, and that's about it. I had people have crushes on me since, and once I no longer was in high school and insecure and afraid constantly of being under a prank, there were people who had crushes on me, and I actually believed them. I actually believed that they were into me and they wanted me. And I felt nothing back. Like at all. Like, good for them for having a crush that is not going to go anywhere, because I did not want to fuck them. I got asked out a couple times, mostly because by my neighbors a couple times, and guys at the thrift store that were, just immigrated from North Africa and were trying to get a foot in France, and they were trying to get a girlfriend, but they were pretty lost. And I don't know, I guess I look approachable, or they were just asking anyone, but I have a lot of success among North African guys that just immigrated. Good to know. And I try to lay them down gently, because I'm not interested. But I've been aware since I'm an adult that yes, I am apparently attractive to some people. I am still not conventionally attractive, but I learned since that people not conventional, and the people, the real people that exist in the real world are attracted to real people and not just supermodels that are conventionally attractive the way they're supposed to be. Anyway, so I am aware that I am attractive. I have boobs, so that attracts those guys, and I have a butch vibe since I'm fat and strong. I have a butch vibe and gender fluid, and so leaning toward masc a lot of time, toward lesbians and bi girls. Again, it's none of my problem, does not really impact my life. Good for them, I don't really care. And so it was when I was a lot older, I think I was around 21, 22, that I learned about asexuality and what it was. And it clicked immediately. I was like, oh, so you don't have to have sex. You can just not do it. And it was like a very revelation. I was like, that's cool, I don't have to, you know, get it done or whatever. It was not a rite of passage, and it's not something that I had to do. I could just live my life without it, and it was a revelation because I was very sheltered. I lived in a very rural area that was not very open to the world. And well, it was pretty nice. And I immediately knew when I was learning about sexuality that I was asexual, and I was okay with it. Which is good. At some point I had considered losing my virginity to my sister's best friend because he was a womanizer and he was almost always bragging about being good in bed and having a huge dick, and I was like, might as well. I know that guy, I kinda trust him. I know he's not gonna hurt me. I know he's probably going to not be too bad because he has experience, and also if I have to do it, might as well do it with him. I'm not attracted to him, but he's safe. And when I learned that I didn't have to have sex, it was very freeing. So like a couple of times guys tried to pull stuff on me. Even him, I think he would have said yes because he would have no. I don't think he would have said no to anyone ever. He was not that type of guy, and so I could have slept with him. I didn't because I didn't want to. I don't regret it. Anyway, so I never had sex apart from kissing a guy's little pee-pee when I was 5 or 6. That's about it. And I am very happy with it. I'm very happy with being asexual and never having to worry about it, never having to think about it. It's a lot more freeing than you think to just, it's not part of my life. I don't have to spend energy on it, on the dance that is trying to get people to like you or whatever. I'm very happy with it. So yeah, that's my journey with asexuality. Now for being romantically attracted to people, I am not a romantic. I know what it feels like because my best friend is a romantic, so I have her experience to base myself off when I say I know what it is like. And I'm not that. I'm not a romantic. I do like the idea of being with someone. And I wish I could, but I don't like people enough to hang out with them enough that it would get there. That would build a relationship. I don't like getting around people. So that makes it pretty hard. To find someone to date me, that's definitely not helping. I had a girlfriend at some point. I call her that, but she saw me as a friend, and I was the one building it up in my head. And it was a long distance thing. She was 24, she still is 24 years older than me. I was 24 then, so she was twice my age. And she was sleeping with a lot of guys. She was married, she had a lot of affairs on the side. I was totally okay with that. And I was actually into it because I knew that having someone that is very sexual but it gets sex from someone else and other people without it being emotionally engaged, emotionally attached, was the best case scenario, because that way they can have as much sex as they want and they don't have to depend on me for it. That was amazing actually for me in my head. That did not work out because she saw me as a friend. I got jealous because she got serious with a guy and monogamous with him, and that was not me. Mostly. So that was not a great feeling. That did not go great at all. It was a tough time in my life. And we broke up at some point a few years after we met. Online it was a long distance relationship. She lives in Pittsburgh, I live in France. But she had agreed to marry me at some point. To shut me up, definitely. But I was excited for that. And after that, I didn't really interact and try to be with anyone. My best friend of right now, the one who is bisexual and a romantic, agreed to marry me because, for legal purposes, only because I'm very scared about my parents having power of attorney over me, and getting married would mean that they don't make medical decisions for me, which would be nice, but that is not possible because she lives in Italy, and Italy is fascist and doesn't allow gay marriage, which sucks. So that's not going to happen. But we do not have a romantic relationship. We are best friends. She's not romantic, I am not sexual, we're not really compatible at all. And just overall, I'm not attracted to her, she's not attracted to me. Which means it's a very healthy relationship. We're both very happy with it. I don't know if you can see her, but there is a cat right there. That is being very spicy. I don't know where I was. So, as of today, I am single. And I am overall pretty happy with the situation. From all of the stage in my life, this is the happiest I have. Not because my life is easy, but because I got rid of a lot of dead weight. And I got rid of a lot of problems that were making me miserable. So while I am not happy, this is the best life I've been able to craft for myself so far. And I'm very thankful for that. Very aware of the luxury that it is. There is potentially room for me for dating right now, but I'm not. Interacting with people is exhausting and I don't like doing it, and that is a very necessary part of dating. Ideally, I'd love to be in a poly relationship. Why? Because I'm messy, I'm complicated, I will be hard to date, and I'm aware of that. And I don't want to put all of that weight on one person. I have a very messy sleep schedule. It is pretty unpredictable, and when I'm awake, when everybody else is asleep, I know that it will make a relationship complicated. And I can blow hot and cold a lot. I don't want to put that weight on one person. I don't think that's very fair. So being in a poly relationship will be ideal, because then their sexual or intimacy or skin contact or just hanging out needs will not rely solely on me, because I just don't want to put that on a person that I like. If I date someone, I just don't want them to prevent themselves from having sex just because they're with me and they don't want to be a cheater. I don't care about cheating. I don't want to have sex. If you want to have sex, you're gonna have to get it somewhere else. And same for a lot of other things. I don't want to live with someone else. I'm happy living on my own and having music blasted at all time. And that is just not going to be possible if I'm in a relationship. Living with other people never went well for me. And if I like someone enough to be in a relationship with them, I just don't want them to put them through hell just to love me. So, ultimately, it would be nice to be in a poly relationship. It would be great. But you can just find poly people. And also, just because they're poly doesn't mean that we're going to get along with. I don't get along with a lot of people. A lot of my friends that I actually friends are long distance, because it's a lot easier to find people you go along with when you have a larger pool to pull from. And in my small-ish city, I don't think I can find a relationship that would be fulfilling for every party. Just by targeting poly people, that would just not work. So I do not have a relationship, and I probably won't, to be frank. I'm not willing to put in the work to get in a relationship. I wouldn't know where to start. And I haven't in a while met someone that I liked hanging out with. Granted, the last two crushes I had, so my professor and my boss, were people in authority over me. So yeah, that was definitely a turn on back then. And I don't have a boss anymore. I don't have a boss, I don't have a professor, I'm no longer in school, I'm no longer working. So someone in that position that is just unattainable enough to be interesting is no longer in my life. I don't have anyone having power over me, which is great. But that means that one of my biggest turn on is gone. So I don't have a current crush on anyone. I have friends that I am definitely not attracted to. And yeah, so a lot of people that I hang out with right now are my parents' age. So you'd think it would be easier to find a crush, since currently I'm attracted to people twice my age. But no, I have not found someone that I am genuinely attracted to. And yeah, that complicates things. So I am single. I am not happy about being single. I wish I had human contact and intimacy and just pleasurable hangouts and pleasurable cohabitation with someone in my life. But I'm not willing to put the work for it, so that's just not happening, regrettably. So that's about it, about the asexuality. Recently, like in the last 5-6 years, maybe a little more, I realized I was also gender fluid. It took me a while to get there. I think it was always there, but I had no idea. Again, I'm asexual, and a lot of gender stuff are connected to gender roles and connected to sexuality. Like, you're a man if you're attracted to women or something else completely stupid, and you're a lesbian or you're something, and a lot of it impacts your gender because you define yourself around who you're attracted to. And since who I'm attracted to is literally an actual mess and it's never sexual, my gender was never something I had a lot of thought about. I didn't really care. I hated my body, have hated my body for a long time, but that's mainly because I'm sick. Not because I have boobs. I am very, very okay with my boobs. I love them. So I never had the urge to bind them or get rid of them, which usually is a sign of you being trans. But I love my boobs. They're staying. I'd love to get work done there, but it's probably not happening. And I can't take hormones because my body is too fucked up. The main problem with my body before were because it was sick and it was fat. And I thought I was not attractive because of that. And that's still a little true. When imagining myself with other people, it was always with a different body than the one I had. One that wasn't gross, one that wasn't painful, one that wasn't ugly. I did not want to interact with another being with that body. It was body dysmorphia, but it was not specifically gender dysphoria back then. It only started to have bouts of gender dysphoria in the past 5 to 6 years. And that's when I realized what it was and what I was in consequence to that. That came a bit of a surprise, as a fun one, because I love being queer. It's not something that I talk about with a lot of people. I have no problem telling people that I'm asexual because so much of the chit chat and casual talking is around, are you dating someone? Are you something? A lot of people assume that I am gay because they don't know what asexuality is. And so I don't really go against that. If they're against gay, usually they assume that when they are anti-gay. A couple of people just ghost me because I was gay, and I was not going to argue over that. If you think I'm gay and you hate me for it, you're not gonna like me for being queer in general. I'm not wasting my time on them. But being gender fluid is something that I need to trust a person to tell, because I got a couple bad experiences with it. And also I was working back then when I started realizing it, and I did not want it to risk my employment, which I didn't depend on for a living. So it was a risk. Being gender fluid was a risk that asexual wasn't. And still today I don't really talk about it unless I trust the person. Something to keep in mind. But I am very gender fluid, and it gave me a lot of insight on what happened, on my crushes, on everything about my identity. And yeah, I'm definitely gay because I'm attracted to the opposite, to the gender that I am at the moment. When I was attracted to a gay guy, I was a gay guy. When I was attracted to a girl, I was a gay girl. And stuff like that. So romantically speaking, I am very gay. And since my gender is fluid and ever changing, that makes for very chaotic attraction. And it's fun. Not gonna lie to you, it's very fun. But it's also another thing about me that is absolutely not stable. And makes just being in a stable relationship very hard. Because I cannot guarantee things will last or things are constant, because I am not constant and I will not last. That, anyway, that's the point. I don't know what the point is. So yeah, the idea is I realized I was gender fluid lately, and it is very fun. At first there was a lot of gender dysphoria because I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't know what it was happening and how to process it. I've learned a lot about it, and I've learned to manage it and to detach myself from my gender most of the time. Most of the time I'm at home alone with my cats. My cats don't give a shit about what my gender is. So unless I go out and interact with people, my gender is not really relevant. Sometimes I do have a stronger identity, gender identity, and it matters to me then what gender I am and what I want my trusted people to call me. That's when I know who is a good friend and who is not, you know, if they either respect or don't respect it. But I am in between most of the time. I'm not non-binary because I am very extreme in a lot of things. There's definitely something going on, and sometimes I am a very strong gender, sometimes I'm very masc, and I hate having my period for that reason, because it always causes gender dysphoria. It's never fun. But since a lot of, again, gender stuff are associated with sexuality and neurotypicality, and I'm neither neurotypical nor sexual, it's completely irrelevant most of the time. Does not mean that I stop being gender fluid just because it's irrelevant, but just that I want to manage it in a way that it doesn't really impact my life all that much. And so with that distance, the gender dysphoria mostly disappeared. I still wish I had a dick. I still wish I didn't have my period. I still wish I could grow a beard, an actual beard, and not just a few stray hair that are pissing me off. I wish I could read more as trans masc or just masc most of the time. But I have my boobs and I don't want to destroy them. I love them. And I can't have hormone replacement therapy because my body just will not handle it very well. And I'm not putting it through that when it's already going through a lot. So yeah, I am gender fuck, but it doesn't really impact me. A lot of asexual people, in the end, have something going on with their gender. They can be agender, they can be gender fluid, they can be non-binary, or everything. They can be trans, they can be anything. And usually, yes, it's connecting with autism and asexuality. as a whole, because gender is a social construct, and so it impacts other social constructs. Anyway, is my hair, it's asexual flag colors, and it's cool. My point is, which somehow didn't get there are no wrong way to be asexual. There is no wrong way to lead your life as an asexual, or time to figure it out. Everything is complicated, and the world around us is complicated. It's okay to figure it out on your own with time, and it's okay to try sex, to like sex, to be repulsed by sex, or just don't like it. It's okay if you are sexual because you think you react to the trauma of a rape or something. I think that my soft rape probably impacted my sexuality, because yeah, it was fucked up and kind of traumatized me. And the bullying also traumatizes me and made me unwilling to be vulnerable and trust people, which is a big part of having sex with other people. So maybe you need to heal before you are sexual again. Maybe you'll never be sexual again. Maybe that'll change. Maybe you weren't asexual before and you are now. There is no rule. There is no wrong way to do this. There is no right way to do this. You just have to follow your guts and be patient with yourself. And reminder, you don't need to have sex. You will not become a complete person once you have sex. It is not a rite of passage. You can just be yourself with cool hair. Bye.